Hello, beautiful people. This is Matthew Tompkins, once again, your host of Day and Night Podcast. It's Marcus in San Antonio.
How's everybody going?
And as I promised, we have another beautiful guest.
In a world of envy, analyze as these guys looks to see. They clones to the naked eye, the dynamic dude. No pesticides, they organic. Day and night's the podcast. In panoramic in 4K, live streaming on your airwaves. No cliche to downplay, this ain't no child's play. Twin brothers close knit, but ain't a gang. They wonders of the world, they monsters. The twin Tompkins, brought on only born. They travel the world stomping at the break of dawn daily. The iron's pumping, my brain no brothers, about to bring you their life. Look no further, everybody, cause it's day and night.
One and only Laura Tompkins, our sister, aka Candy.
Hi, how are you?
She's in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. All right, so this topic this week is a topic that we all, I'm sure, heard of at some point. I spoke on it last week a little bit. As far as my timeline or social media, I've been bombarded with the topic of masculinity versus femininity, or does women possess more masculinity than they used to? For me, this is a very sensitive topic. It's a lot to unpack. I feel as though it's very complex. And, throughout the week, I was just thinking, I said, I believe that a lot of people have their own perception of what true masculinity is and femininity. Because all the podcasts I've heard, all the talk shows, everybody is bringing in their own little spin on what masculinity is. And I believe it's confusing a lot of people, and especially young people that don't have the education of what it truly is. And they're paying attention to what these celebrities, entertainers, and these other people on the podcast are saying. And that's not 100% exactly what it is. And I said this before, for me, balance is the key. Men possess femininity or feminine energy. Women possess masculine energy. And it has to be a balance in order to operate. And for me, I believe both men and women, there's an unbalance there. And I believe that's where the disconnect is coming in at. And some people are just perceiving the masculinity sometimes what women may have, as far as that's them being what's the word I'm looking for? Being I can't even think of it right now. But I'm pretty sure y'all heard about TD Jakes. He got a lot of pushback on when he said that we're raising our young women to be masculine. I agree to an extent with what he's saying, or what he said. For me, I did a little bit of research on it. And Mark knows this. I try to go off of facts opposed to just my opinion. Because like I said, there's so many opinions out there, and I just believe it's just clouding everybody's judgment. So as far as like masculinity based off of, literature and stuff like that, it's aggressiveness, action, logic. Now, last week we had two guests on here. That was women. They own their own business. To me, they're one of the perfect examples of balance. They possess masculine energy and they possess feminine energy. And for a businesswoman to be in the field of business, owning their own business, they have to possess some type of masculinity. Just based off of that definition, as far as being aggressive, logic, they have to be able to be aggressive and use logic when they're owning a business. So they have to operate in that masculine energy at that point. Now, a lot of times where the disconnect may come in is some women may not be able to balance it. And depending on what type of partner they have, if the partner is not in his role, then they may have to continue to operate in that masculine energy. And if for whatever reason they don't maintain that relationship and they go into another relationship, I just think it's the nature of the beast. Sometimes you kind of base the next relationship off of what you were in recently. And sometimes you might go into it just assuming, well, this person may not be working in his masculinity the way he's supposed to, and it can be a small carryover. And I believe sometimes that can be the disconnect as far as men perceiving women to be always operating their masculinity. And it's a lot to unpack, like I said, because you have single women out there. And again, they have to be able to operate in both. They have to be empathetic towards their children. Then they have to be masculine as far as taking care of things and making sure things is in place at home. And there was this one podcast I was listening to, and the one guy was saying that men forces women to not be feminine. Again, I agree to disagree. I don't believe we should always put the blame on the other person, whether it's man or woman. For me, I think it's a personal thing. I feel as though it's an individual responsibility to be able to balance yourself out and operate in both energies. I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do. I think it's harder for women, especially young black women, because so many times, the father's not there or the male is not there, so they have to work in both. So I understand that perspective, but I'm just curious. And we'll open the floor up and start with our guest first. And what is your take on that, Candy?
I think it's important, like you said, to just kind of define the terms. What are we actually talking about when we speak about masculine and feminine? So just briefly, I just kind of Googled, like, what is the definition? And it says qualities and attributes regarded as characteristics of men. Roughness, manliness, robustness, vigor, strength, opposite of femininity. So just going off of that definition, it brings you to the term men. And what is that? And that definition has to be defined the way it is what it is. It's very concrete what a man is. Genetically, what is a man? Cognitively, how does a man then function in that genetic code or because of that genetic code? So I'm just getting a brief definition so we have a point to kind of work from. And femininity, qualities and attributes regarded as the characteristic of a woman. She is feminine, divine, passive, which we think of as negative. And we look at that as a challenge to being masculine. But to get to your ultimate question is, how do we balance that within ourselves? Within a society in which there's the term, one more term I need to define, toxic masculinity. And it is such a misnomer because there is no toxicity in being what you are by nature. You cannot be toxic in being who you are and who God designed you to be, who Creator designed you to be. So if you look at that, it says the definition is harmful beliefs, not qualities, beliefs about the way men and how men should behave. Those three definitions kind of contradict themselves if you really look at it, because again, you can't be toxic walking in your truth as the way Creator made you. But I would reframe the toxic masculinity just to say that it is the beliefs that masculinity is superior to femininity. It is a necessity in the workplace. It is a necessity when you are a single mom. It is a necessity when you are striving to build. But when you're walking in that masculine energy, it is very difficult as a woman, and I'm speaking as a woman, to balance that with the feminine aspects. Right. Taking on, the body even takes on a more masculine appearance if you're doing masculine work. And what is masculine work? And a lot of women would say, there's no such thing as masculine and feminine work. If I'm laying bricks for a living, I'm going to build traps, right?
Yes.
That's what's going to happen. I'm going to build calves. I'm going to build shoulders. I'm going to start to acquire the attributes of a masculine form physically. I'm also going to acquire that in the form of energies. So then how do I even attract a partner? If I'm going to attract a partner, he's going to have a job that's even more demanding, more in that masculine energy. He clearly can't be an accountant sitting behind a desk with slim hips, slim shoulders, and be attracted to a woman that has these masculine qualities. It simply is what nature is. Opposites attract, the similars repel, and we can try all we want to kind of reshape that. But You're not. So I struggle with that term toxic masculinity because they say that masculinity and femininity is a spectrum, right? We have so many spectrums going on now. Gender is a spectrum. But at the end of the day, even in our language, we get caught up in the pronouns versus our adjectives. And if we really focus more on who we are and how we're behaving, that's going to tell you more about the energies that we're putting out. Not my pronouns. You can call me he all day. Right. But if I am not walking in those qualities of masculinity, then it doesn't make a bit of difference. So that's where I look at it, is that we're getting the energies from what we're being taught. I almost feel sorry for the kids nowadays, because that term toxic masculinity is not a way to celebrate who a male child is. And especially as it pertains to Black or indigenous males. We have a whole nother layer of that cultural piece put on top of it, because Black men are looked at as being even more masculine than white men. So then who then is the most toxic? Right. You know, so those labels, but it's frequencies. I think they're almost palpable. I'm sure that if we had a frequency ray that could pick it up off of the body itself, we could actually see it.
Yes. Oh my God. So you hit it. That's the key point you said right there. And I kind of touched on that last week. You can say this is a conspiracy theory or not, but I just believe the powers that be, whether it's the government, these corporations, I believe they know the truth. And to keep us all in control. That's one thing I learned when I was in the military. It's all about command and control. They don't want to be out of power. So they'll do any and everything to maintain power. And one way of doing that is command and control. So they keep everybody in a low vibration. And you're not going to raise, if you can't raise your frequency and your vibration, you're going to stay fighting amongst each other. Like I said last week, all this separation is keeping everyone in a low vibration. Because you're fighting over stuff that's, like you said, is going against nature. And you can't fight against nature. It is what it is, and you are who you are. Opposed to learning and growing from it and learning how to work in it and being balanced. For me, that's the key. All right, Mark, I know you got something back there.
Yeah, well, y'all did the educational part of it. Y'all broke it down, defined it. Now, I'm going to be the devil's advocate. Now, I'm going to try to stay in the lane on keeping it focused on the way y'all broke it down. Because my version is going to be a little different on, more of it's going to be an opinion coming from me as opposed to y'all put out facts and all that, like Candy did the definition. So I'm going to go by basically what I've seen and my perspective on the masculinity and the femininity. So my approach is a little different. I just observe and I watch. So the way I'm looking at it nowadays is, and we talked about this before, and I talked to numerous of my lady friends, some agree, some disagree, where to me, it seemed like the masculinity is not transformed, but it's balancing towards the other way, meaning it's more women becoming more playing of the guy role than the guy playing that role, being the leader, the protector, more the masculine. They seem like they being more the feminine, stepping back in a sense, and the women is taking over, being more in control and doing things that you expect guys will be doing. And I'm gonna use a couple examples, okay? So I'm always using my work job because my workplace, because I see it's a lot of women that work in the workplace. And it's a quote unquote man's job, is manufacturing. You would typically think it's more men that will work there, but it's a vast majority where it's balanced, men and women. But the point that I'm gonna allude to in this is, it was a guy, we changed these machines, they call jigs. So we had to change them out. And the guy was standing there watching the woman do all the work, and she clearly needed help. He stood there and watched, and another guy said, "Hey man, aren't you gonna help her?" He said, "For what? She got it. She know what she's doing. If she shouldn't be doing a man's job if she can't handle it." So I'm sitting there looking at him like, okay, I kind of see what you're saying, but at the same time, she clearly couldn't handle it. So why don't you be a gentleman and go over there and change it out? Instead, he was like, I ain't doing that. She's trying to be a dude, so let her be a dude and change the machine. So that's one incident. Then there's another incident where one of the machines broke. and I'm telling you, it's about 8 guys surrounded by this machine. It took them literally 30 minutes to figure it out, scratching their heads. They didn't know what to do. The lady comes up, and I'm not lying. She did it in 5 minutes. She moved this piece, and she fixed it in a matter of 2 minutes. And all the dudes looked like, oh my God, how did you do that? I didn't know, how could you do that? She looked at him like, really? It took all y'all to figure it, couldn't figure it out. It took me 2 minutes. So the point I'm trying to make is, it just seems like guys are taking a step back and not being the leader, and not saying that a woman can't do what a man can do. So I'm not trying to come across, because I know some people are going to seem like what I'm trying to say is, well, why can't women do what a man do? Which is true, because I have daughters. So I always tell my daughters that you should be able to do anything a man can do. There's no reason why you can't. But my point is the guys are allowing it to be where, oh, well, she wants to be a man, let her be a man and play that role. And it seems like the chivalry is getting less and less, and the guys don't even want to take that role to where they should be doing that. So that's just part of my masculinity versus femininity, where I know it's a little different from what y'all are saying, but I'm just kind of giving examples on how what I see is where I portray it as the masculinity is losing. Guys aren't doing the leader roles that they should. And that's just in the workplace. I mean, in the gym, I see women come in there and they pushing iron just as much as guys. So I just see the guys not even being able to handle the weight as much as the women do. So my point on that is just, it just seems like the women are coming up, taking more of the masculine role. Now, I'm gonna touch a point you said, man. I'm gonna give y'all the floor again. When you alluded to single moms, and I think that's one of the keys, because one of my lady friends has said that, and that's what we kind of, we didn't get into it, but it was a heated debate. And she said women nowadays have to play both roles because there's no men left that playing that role. So they have to take on that masculine role of the guy because there's no man to do that. So they got to be that man and that woman in the workplace, at home. So that's where it seems like the change is shifting to where women is more dominant in doing that than men, because women try to be equal, and then they have to be more because these guys are not taking the leadership role, in my opinion, of what a guy should be doing. Now, again, I'm not saying a woman can't do it, but if you're a man, you should be able to do some of the things that, in my definition, a man should be doing. So I'm gonna let y'all kind of comment on that, and I'm gonna come back and bring up 2 more examples on my difference of masculinity versus femininity.
All right, I don't know. I don't want to keep sound like I'm repeating myself, but I'm coming back to this. I think this is important. Mm-hmm. Like, as far as whether you believe we're indigenous of this continent or we came from Africa, the truth is we still have totally 2 different cultures as far as how they were in Africa or how we were indigenous people here. So when the Europeans came over and took over, this is my opinion, they forced their opinion of what masculinity is, because everywhere you look, they're putting their spin on what masculinity is. And what is their idea of masculinity is a white male. So not true and knowing the black male or Hispanic or whatever you want to, they're going to automatically put themselves as what true masculinity is. And I believe that's another avenue or another reason why there's so much divide and confusion, is because we're being forced to believe this is what masculinity is. And in all actuality, that's not what it is. So it was something I was thinking about with the whole TD Jakes thing. I'm not going to say this person's name, but this is someone I was involved with. She was raised by her father to be like a male. When I say like a male, as far as he taught her how to use power tools, which is nothing wrong with that because you just want them to be self-sufficient. But at the same time, it kind of hindered her because as she grew older and older, she gravitated more to those type of things than what's deemed, more feminine or woman-like. Then she went to the military, and that's the worst place to go because that whole structure is based off of masculinity. So the only thing that did is feed it more into who she was as a person. And as she grew older, it helped develop her as a young adult. And I struggle with that because I believe I'm a true masculine male, not based off what society says, but just innate in me as far as wanting to be a provider, protector. Those two main things. So I struggle with many women when it comes to, rather if I'm dating them or not, but if we're in a relationship longer than 6 months, if you're staying at home and you got something has to be fixed, stuff need to be done around the house, I always step up and say, okay, I got that, let me do it. And I think I talked to you about this, Mark and Candy. Well, we literally got in an argument because she wouldn't let me do it. She was used to actually paying someone else, and other people she dated was in relationships with, they weren't doing it. Like you said, Mark, they were sitting back and allowing her to do it. So my point I'm trying to get to is, I think, as I said before, so much confusion out here that no one truly knows what true masculinity is. And we're being told what it is.
Absolutely. I think that we live in the land of make-believe now. And we had this discussion. What society has told us is masculine. It's all fabrications. All of their heroes are fabricated completely. Superman, he's supposed to be flying up near the sun. Yeah, okay, really. Spider-Man, all of them. These are tenets of masculinity that exist in a make-believe world. When you look at, and I beg to differ on this point, that I do think that we innately know what is masculine and feminine. If you look at the Hispanic language, la radio, there's a masculine and feminine in every single word. Innately, you don't have to really teach children where the la or the L goes, right? They just kind of know. We know what is masculine in the world. We know what is feminine. It's only when you add cognition to it. There are no other animals that behave in the manner that we do. You don't see peacocks running around taking feathers and sticking on themselves and trying to parade around to attract the opposite sex. Right. It's only when you add the cognition piece that it becomes a necessity to define it and figure it out. And what is this? And when the society shifted from a more male-dominated society, which was their archetype, women lost their ability to be recognized and rewarded for the femininity piece. We are not to be masculine. I mean, I applaud women who are doing their thing. I'm doing my thing. I'm holding my household down. But it is a masculine energy. I'm driven. I am dedicated. I am aggressive. These are terms that don't define a woman. They, again, define masculinity. But my point being is that in their archetype, they've turned it around and made it toxic to be who you are, and that you can just choose which energy and in which physicality you operate in, which is absolutely insane. But keeping and attracting a mate that is going to be equally yoked with you is almost impossible if you can't find someone that's really vibrating in that masculine energy and understands what they bring is valuable and what this other person brings is valuable. It's lock and key. It's not one without the other. And I like how Mark had typified the example being men are kind of taking the path of least resistance. Femininity is seen as the easy route. I can sit back and be rescued, right? The hero is going to come. I don't have to. So guess what? If she's making what I'm making, she's making 25 an hour, I'm gonna let her do the job just like a man. We can do the job. We can't do it at the capacity that a man can do it. We're not designed to do that. If you take firefighters, women can't even carry the ladder. They can't do it. They physically cannot carry that ladder, but they're given equal pay. Is there a job that's just as important? Yes. Can they be a firefighter? Yes. Carry the hose. The hose is important, but don't carry the ladder. Right. Stay in your lane. Stay in your place as far as those energies are concerned, but I really feel like they have skewed things as far as indigenous people are concerned. And if you go back to Africa, to areas where it's not touched by Western society, they still have an understanding of what masculine and feminine is, and they honor women. We got it twisted here.
So let me ask y'all this, okay? So y'all said it beautifully. That's why I love talking to y'all. Y'all just break it down so educationally. I'm gonna do it more in layman terms. So I'm gonna ask both of y'all, and I'll make a comment again. So with that being said, now y'all don't have kids, all y'all kids are grown, as is mine. So how do we go forward from this to teach? Because like mom used to always say, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, right? So how do we change the generation to keep that? Do we tell, well, maybe in this point, I tell my grandkids, this is the difference, because if we don't break that chain, it's just going to continue on. It's going to be the same cycle because no one's taking that leadership role to say, hey, this is what masculinity is. Because I'm going to use an example. And this is why this lady, and I think, Candy, you told me this a while back, and a lady I met, and this is funny. I'm going to tell you a story, okay? So we met at the club. I'm not going to say her name, but she know who she is when she hear this story. Okay, so we go to the club, we meet, and it's funny because this woman, I never met anybody like her. I'm in the club, she looks me up and down, and go, you look like you about 190. I'm like, seriously, you just gonna figure that out just by looking at me? She's like, yeah, you look like you about 190. So we laughed, we continued on our way, we wound up meeting a friend, brought us and said, I want you to meet him. And then we wound up laughing because we like, oh, we already talked to each other. So the point I'm making is just follow the story. So we danced, enjoyed ourselves, went to Whataburger, which is a fast food place. We sat out there in the parking lot. We talked from 2 o'clock always all the way to 6 in the morning. So in a conversation, she was telling me, so what do you do? What can you do? What can you bring to the table? I was like, what? What are you talking about? She said, because this is what I do. I cook, I clean, I can sew, I can knit, all of that stuff. I do things typically what a woman would do. What are you gonna bring to the table if we was to hook up? And I was just like, who says that on the first night when you meet somebody? I just thought that was random. It caught me off guard, but it was a good way to find out about a dude. She said, because my dad was a masculine man. He was a provider, protector, man of God. I was like, damn, he sound like my dad. And she was saying he raised me to be a woman, but he also raised me to make sure I get a man. He's gonna be able to do what a man role is per se. Because she said, if I gotta clean, if I gotta cook, if I gotta fix the washer and dryer, if I gotta get under the hood, fix my car, why do I need you? Because if you can't play that role typically of what a man should do, which is kind of masculine, then why I'm bringing you in my life? And I was like, wow, that's deep, because that's a good point. So my point that I'm asking y'all is, so if we can't use masculinity as y'all saying, the way it's kind of portrayed, where it's labeled, so how can we define masculinity? Because it has to be identified. Everything has to have a label to be able to identify it. Because I think this is another subject for another day. This is where we are with this whole same-sex thing. Is because it's acceptable, there's no moral, there's no standard. So I think it has to be a breakdown what masculinity is, because if every guy feels like, oh, I ain't gotta fix this car because you can do it, then like the lady said, why do I need you? Because I need you for something. If I gotta do all this myself and then what you would be doing, there's no need for you. The sex may be good, but then a woman, she told me this, she said, no woman will never respect you if you don't do those things, because she's looking at her eyes, you ain't doing nothing for me, but give me some D. And then they ain't that good. So why am I keeping you around? So the point I'm making, guys, is that's why I believe that masculinity has to be kind of in the picture, because these days, these guys out here, I'm sorry, I see it every day and I just look at it. I'm like, seriously? This one guy at my job, he's from Philly too. I was like, you definitely from a different generation. He's telling me, and I'm listening to this cat, yo, man, I need to find me a woman that's gonna take care of me, man. I don't feel like working like this. What I'm gonna work for? I need to get a rich woman to take care of me. And I'm sitting there looking like, why would you want that? How would you feel as a man that the woman is doing everything and you just kick back? Well, shit, I'm gonna be living it up. So that's why I'm like, okay, this doesn't make sense. How you gonna call yourself a man if you doing nothing and the woman's doing what you should be doing? She's being the man, you typically being the woman. So I said, it's something that's not right about that, bro. And he's just like, I don't care, man. I need the woman to take care of me. I shouldn't have to work so hard. I was like, well, why? And he could not give me a definition. The only reason why I understood where he's coming from, he didn't have a dad in his life. He said, my dad was never around. My mom was always around. And his mom was a drug addict. So he never had no guidance, nobody to mold him, teach him, educate him, direct him in the right way. So he's grown up in this era with these young dudes. Mm-hmm. I work with a lot of them. That's the mentality. So that's why I feel masculinity has to be somewhat defined. This is what a man is, because right now, it's the women doing everything. Like I said,
Absolutely.
I work with women that's doing jobs that, not saying a dude should do it. It's just that why is a guy here if we can't do some of these things that these women is doing better than us? To me, I take that offensively. I guess I'm more prideful. I still open the door for the ladies. And one lady told me, I don't need you to help open the door. For one, it takes too long. Why do I need you to open the door? I said, it's probably because you never had nobody do it. It's just a respect for showing you, I appreciate you.
Right.
Let me open this door for you. It's not that you can't do it. It's a sign of appreciation and respect.
Right.
So I'm gonna let y'all talk. I don't want to dominate the conversation.
What I kind of heard you say was three things. One, it has to be a part of the equation. It has to, for there to be any kind of balance. That you need it. If you have a nut, you have a bolt. Without a nut, without the bolt, is not functional. So you're right. It has to be there. And then the other piece of it was, well, how do we kind of break that chain? And it takes a lot. There's a disclaimer every time you watch something. Parental discretion is advised. And you know, we didn't watch anything without mom and dad's commentary. And that commentary played a stronger role in what I learned than what I watched. Without that commentary, without that adult influence, whoever it is saying to you or filtering what you're watching, you are subjected to anything. So part of it is really being invested and involved with what is coming through that lens, be it the cell phones, be it the tablets, the television, but it's so much of it. So they get so indoctrinated into this process so young, where you got little boys talking about, I'm a girl at 2. I couldn't tell you if I was a girl or a boy at 2. I couldn't tell you up or down. Kindergartners get in the wrong line when they're kindergartners. But then the third thing that I heard you say was that men are adapting to the masculine piece. And that comes from that term, toxic masculinity. And I do believe that it is targeted at indigenous people, because it is weaponized in a way that takes our men, again, away from the community. If you look at everything that was done, it was strategically done to take the men out of the home, out of the community, and out of positions of authority, and out of positions of being protectors. Masculine and feminine energies are palpable. You can feel them. You know when someone is working in that energy. It's become a necessity now for women to step up in that aggressive, what was the other term? It said directed, goal-oriented, and strong. Everyone wants to be that. Well, what's wrong with taking the passive role? What's wrong with being the softer piece? What's wrong with being the receptacle? It's what we've been taught. So it is a mountain that we're climbing.
Right.
It really is, because the indoctrination starts so early with what they're seeing, with what they're, even now Disney has 2 princes.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm laughing, but I'm like, I never thought that was something that I would see in this lifetime. But when you were talking about the guy, like, oh yeah, I just want a woman to take care of me. I had almost the identical experience last night. This gentleman told me, I want to get this girl pregnant because she's a millionaire, and she would give me $7,000 a month to take care of the baby. And I said, $7,000 a month seems like a lot to you. So you can't earn that for yourself. It's not even in your sight or your goals that you would think that you can earn that a month for yourself. But you would get some woman who was mentally ill, pregnant, to get this for yourself. And he was like, yeah, he thought it was the greatest thing under the sun that he was going to get this person pregnant to receive child support. Now, what energy is he in? He's in a completely feminine and almost infantile position, you know? Take care of me. Let this woman take care of me. Well, if you put someone in an infantile position, I can do whatever I want to you. I can manipulate you because I'm feeding you. I'm sheltering you. I'm clothing you. I can take away that shelter. I can restrict certain access, and you're in a childlike position. So I heard those 3 things. It has to be there. You're absolutely correct. It has to be defined as to what it is and what it looks like to be healthy. And then the third thing, how can we kind of break this cycle? So Matt, I'm going to pass it on to you with those 3 questions that Mark asked.
All right. I'm going to try to answer your questions, but I look at it like this. I believe women are awakened in their masculinity, so to speak. And as I said before, just like Candy put out the definition, and I still believe like there has to be it does have to be a label. Masculinity has to be defined, but it has to be an absolute definition of it. But then again, that goes back into, well, who absolute are we getting?
Right.
Are we getting theirs or are we getting
Right.
ours? Right. So if it's based off of their perception of what absolute masculinity is, it still disconnects us because they're not adding us to that equation. So, but to go to the part about the awaken part. Now, the actual technical term of balance, I always say balance is androgynous. So that's basically the woman working her feminine energy and masculine energy. Now, this is how I see it. As far as the men, they're working in their feminine energy, but because they don't have, in my opinion, a balanced man that works in his feminine and his masculine energy, they just solely getting lost into their feminine energy. Now, if there was more men that was balanced and they was working in both, then I could see, okay, I can be in my feminine energy at the right point in time. But because now women are, coming up and they're actually doing things, they're making more money, and they're able to do just as much as a man, men are looking at us like, well, shit, if she can do it, hell, I'll just sit back and let her take care of me.
Let her do it, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like a disconnect. There has to be some teaching. I think it has to be examples. To me, that's the only way it's going to change. If you have someone that's balanced, whether that's in the home first, but in the community, not necessarily celebrities, because they're going to give you a tainted view of it, but in the community at home. To me, that's where it starts. If you got a positive example of both women and men that's balanced in the home and in the community, I think you start seeing a change. Because now everything is geared more towards social media, entertainment. And I was talking to Kim about this the other day. Almost every superhero movie now, they're putting women up as superior to the men. So subliminally in your subconscious, what are you doing? You're taking that in like, oh shit, she's powerful just as much as I am. I can just sit back and let her take over. Right. So subconsciously, that's messing with people.
Well, see, that's what
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's what I agree with. So my lady friend that I was talking to, I love the conversation she had, and we talking about balance. And we do this thing where we ask each other questions. I'm not big on asking somebody, what would you do? Because again, I'm a situational person. But she said, okay, let's do the scenario. If I'm working and you're working less hours, who's going to come home and do the dishes if you get home first? I said, if I'm home, I'm going to do the dishes. She said, okay, if one of the cars isn't working and you have it, do you just let me deal with it? Or do you take care of that? Who should take care of that? I said, I'll take care of that. Now, if you had the car and it needs to be fixed, then you'll take care of it. So the point I'm making is, whatever situation is, whoever is the one that's in that particular moment should do it. To me, that's balance, because we have, in a sense, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. So to me, that would be good balance. It's not, oh, well, you the man, you need to handle this. It's, if you got the chance to handle it, go for it. If I had the opportunity, then go for it. 'Cause she said, what if I was working and you wasn't? Again, she said, what would you do? I said, if I was home, I would do the things that need to be done around the house. To me, that's balance. I wouldn't look at it per se as, because I'm the man, I'm not going to clean up the house. That should be what a woman should do. I think that goes back to the old saying, used to say that caveman mentality, where I'm the man, you the woman, you do as I say, I'm not going to do that. I think it's all about helping each other. At this point, that's kind of how we took it, as instead of labeling I'm the man, you the woman, let's just be balanced with each other, help each other out, or whatever we're doing in that situation, whoever has the opportunity, take care of it. To me, I think that would be the best way to handle it, instead of doing the label, you the man, I'm the woman, because that's where I think the downfall is because it's that stigma of, again, like the guy in the workplace, when he made that comment, she wanted to be acting like a man, let her do it. So he felt offended because she's doing what a man want to do, and he felt like, oh, now you need help? You shouldn't took that man's role, because that's, like you were saying, that's the perception that they put out there, that that's supposed to be a man's job and women shouldn't be doing it. So when a guy do sit back and watch that, they get it, oh, well, she want to do it, let her do it. Me personally, I wouldn't get offended if a woman do it. But again, I just feel with certain things, yeah, a man should take that role. Because again, it's just no point of you being that guy if all you're gonna do is just say, well, she's handling it because she can, just let her do it. I still feel like I don't think that's a disrespect to her. Again, it's a form of respect. Let me handle that. I got it. I know you can handle it, because I tell women all the time that work at my job, I know you handling it, but just let me help you out. And then she's like, oh, that's so sweet. Nobody does that anymore. Well, I always had to do it myself because men just sit there and watch. So there's some women that do still appreciate that because they know that that's a respect. It's not a disrespect saying, oh, you can't handle it because you're a woman. You know, because there's some guys that have that mentality where you're not strong enough. But I don't believe that, because I've trained women. Vast majority of my women are clients, and they stronger than some of the dudes I train. So that's why I believe that, you know, women can't do the same thing a man can do. But I still believe that we have to teach our sons, okay, there's nothing wrong with the woman doing this, but at some point, still let her know that I got you, let me handle it. Because then the question is, you said about femininity, what a man do to be showing his feminine side? The sensitivity to a woman, to me, that's what the feminine will come out of a guy, is being sensitive to a woman needs. Because other than that, this dude at work, oh, I cut my hand. This dude literally, I can't work because I got cuts on my knuckles. I'm sitting there looking like, dude, man up. Now, again, that's that term, but come on, dude, you cut your nail. I mean, your knuckles, and you can't work. He complaining about, I need to go home. And then there's a woman right here that fell down, got up, brushed off like nothing. I'm good, I don't need to go. So that's where it bothers me, is where dudes act too feminine. So I'm like, that's the sensitive side of a guy, is to show that he can't handle it, because that's gonna teach your young boys that it's okay to be, oh, I'm hurt, I can't continue on. So it has to be that masculinity to let women know this man's gonna be able to protect me, because if not, that's why, honestly, again, subject for another day, that's why a lot of women is turning to women, is because they feel, and I had a woman tell me, if I don't work with this dude, I'm just being a woman, because a man can't do nothing for me. He ain't protecting me, he ain't taking care of me. I'm gonna go get a woman that can do all that. And I think that's why it has to be some masculinity, because if a guy touches his feminine side, to me, he's losing touch of being a guy, and now he's accepting himself to be a woman. That's why I got dudes running around here. There's a guy just got hired with his fingernails painted. Come on.
But I mean, I just want to interject real quick. You're speaking on a sense, and that's why I say it has to be an absolute definition of what it is, because that's one aspect of what femininity is. You're picking out one point. That's not all what femininity is. Part of femininity is being empathetic. So that's, for me, is being able to empathize. So if you come home and your wife, if she works at home and she's been taking care of the kids, like, babe, I'm tired. Just give me a break. Just let me take a vacation. And he just goes off on him like, well, I've been working hard. And he's not putting himself in her shoes and feeling what she went through. That's more so what I'm referring to when I say be in touch with his feminine side. And I'll just give you a quick example, and I'll let Candy close it out. But when I was going through what I went through, and the spiritual advisor I was talking to, she was like, when you go in there, you got to be in touch with your feminine side. Because if you go in there as a man, as a masculine, you're going to come in there like, I'm this, I'm that, like Deshaun Watson. He just totally, well, I'm innocent. I don't care what no one says, I'm innocent. He was not being empathetic to those women, whether if it's true or not, how they may have felt. Whether if something happened or not, he has to put himself in their shoes and feel as though, what did I do to make them feel that way, that they had to put charges to me? So that's what I'm referring to when I say being in touch with your feminine side, as far as being empathetic to the sense of women. Exactly, not if something happened to you, cut and you just, oh my God, no. That's
no. No, I'm just saying, I think, what I'm saying is, I think the guys is taking the wrong path of touching their sensitive side.
Because they don't have a true definition. They don't have an example. So that's what I'm saying. We don't have an example. You're going to pick and choose what you perceive femininity to be. So if you pick and choose one aspect of it, then you're like, no, I can't be feminine. That's too sensitive. That makes me look like a punk. And you're not looking at the total, characteristics and traits of what femininity is. You're never going to be in touch. And I'm just telling you, I'm going to say this, and I promise I'll let it go with Candy. Like, balance, for me, for some reason, that illuminates for me every day. Everything we do in life is based off balance.
Right.
You have two legs. Your car, if it's driving, if it's out of balance, you're not gonna be able to steer straight. Everything we do, we have two eyes. Your ears, if one is out of balance, your equilibrium is gonna be off. You have to have balance. You cannot operate functionally as a human being without both, as a man with femininity and masculinity in its rightful time. Same thing with a woman, as a relationship. There have to be a balance between the two. That's when you attract the right person. And what's happening is masculine women are attracting, for whatever reason, these men that's not balanced. And then damn, where are the real men at? It's not that it's not them out there. You're attracting the wrong type of man. The men is out there and the women are out there. All right,
so that means I gotta watch a chick flick tonight, then?
No. Even in watching the chick flick, Mark, you still get exposed to this fairy tale that they're feeding us about what femininity is supposed to look like. And in today's society, feminine energy is not rewarded. It's something that is supposed to be looked at as negative. Like Matt said, you look at all of the movies and the heroes are now women. But one thing that they make sure that they do when it's a white female hero, she also has something that makes her so vulnerable and in such need of his masculine energy. With us, it's not like that. It's the female warrior, we're running around bald heads, axes, and we got it all. No, what is attractive? What does that leave for a man to bring to the plate? Absolutely nothing. But with them, they put them out there as heroes. They jumping around, kicking behind. I just went to see that movie and I walked out on it. What is that new movie?
Thor.
I had to walk out on it because she's jumping around. She is Thor, but she has cancer. So she's still in need of his energy. So they recognize that they're not going to displace themselves. Everything, like you said, has to walk and function in balance. You cannot have it out of balance as a society, as a human being. You're going to be in discord with yourself. Yeah. And I heard Mark saying kind of those roles that we play. But if you look at even your yin and yang symbol, that balance of what portion of femininity needs to exist in the masculine is very small and minute, and vice versa. We have just really kind of, if you took that symbol and somebody had drew a picture of this and they twisted it, just kept twisting it. And eventually what it looked like was kind of like a candy cane spiral. And that's where we're at now. And so that's where we're so confused, and that confusion comes from. Well, who am I and how do I fit? I'm a good woman. How many times have you heard a woman say this? I'm educated. I have a job. I got my own business. I got my own car, my own house. Well, that's not necessarily attracting an equal and opposite. Yes. What you're doing is trying to be completely self-sufficient. Right. And that's fine, because that's what is called for at the moment, but you're not leaving that space, that energy for someone else to come in and balance you out.
Right.
Beautiful. All right. Yeah. So to me, it's just a lot to unpack. We can talk about this for hours.
Right.
And unfortunately, that's going to be the time for the day. But again, I thank you, Candy, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Thank you for coming.
So beautiful people out there, please like and subscribe and tune in next week. And have a beautiful weekend.
All right.
Bye.
They wonders of the world, they monsters. The twin Tompkins brought our only born. They travel the world stopping at the break of dawn daily. The iron's pumping. I bring no brothers, about to bring you their life. Look no further, everybody, cause it's day and night. Let's go.